Radio 2 presents Lloyd Cole Knew My Father.
Hello, Cleveland. My name is Andrew Collins.
My name is Stuart Maconie.
And my name is David Quantick.
And welcome to Lloyd Cole Knew My Father, a sort of remix of the history of rock and roll used to pad out the second CD. We're here to escort you, like the last three escorts left at an escort agency that's had a really busy night, on another leg of our magical history tour. That's magical as in enchanting, not actually magic like a magic tree.
Yeah, a magic tree isn't actually magic, Andrew.
Yeah, but it says it is on the side, doesn't it?
Yeah, it also says it's a tree.
Oh, yeah.
Thanks. We'll also be joined on our journey into sound by real-life actress Amelia Bulmore.
Well, I thought it released that pleasant aroma in your car by magic.
We've really got to move on from this now.
OK. The music I would like played at my funeral is One More Night by Bob Dylan from his Nashville Skyline album.
One more night, the moon is shining bright.
The music I'd like played at my funeral is Chopin's Piano Sonata No. 2.
The music I would like played at my funeral is Elton John's Candle in the Wind, 97.
Goodbye, England's rose, may you ever grow in our hearts.
Except with the lyrics changed. So instead of Goodbye, England's rose, may you ever grow in our hearts, it'll say, Goodbye, England's Dave. The bar will be free until 8 o'clock, and the disco will consist entirely of the Pet Shop Boys and New Order played back to back. If you don't like it, I don't care, I'm dead. Anyway, so far in this series, we've learned about where rock and roll came from, who writes the songs that makes the whole world sing, why do birds suddenly appear every time Andrew's near, and that's all very well and esoteric, but none of us would be here were it not for that one aspect of rock and roll of which no one likes to speak.
The ritualistic murder.
No, the music industry.
Of course, there is no ritualistic murder. Forget that.
Forget that. The music industry, the music business, the music trade, whichever way you say it.
L'affaire de la musique.
Whichever way you say it, it's a business or industry or trade.
Das Musikengebusiness.
But on the one hand, you've got music, a vibrant art form that stretches back to the dawn of time, an unknowable sequence of sounds plucked from thin air and organised melodically, harmonically and rhythmically.
La Fario de Musicianando.
Stop it now, Dave. On the one hand, you have music, and on the other, a business. Vast chimneys belching out acrid smoke from dark satanic mills, while the factory whistle blows, matchstalk men and matchstalk cats and dogs, kids on the corner of the street that were sparking clogs.
Now, though romanticising obviously like a fool from Northampton doesn't actually know what sparking clogs means, Andrew does have a point. How can the intoxicating allure of music survive as a mere product in a competitive marketplace?
Yes, it was over-manicured and, surprisingly, gay pop singer George Michael, who in 1992 sought to remove himself from a long-standing record contract with his record label CBS when they were bought out by Sony. He gave his reasons in court.
Silence in court. Call Mr. Carryalco's Penny, you two better known as over-manicured and not yet gay pop singer George Michael.
Thank you, Your Honour.
This is what George Michael actually said.
I have seen the great American company that I proudly signed to as a teenager become a small part of the production line for a giant electronics corporation which, quite frankly, has no understanding of the creative process. Sony appears to see artists as little more than software.
The trial of the century, and very much a sign of the times. The artist aggrieved at a boardroom decision way out of his control. It was as if George's local high street butcher had been swallowed up by a new 24-hour hypermarket.
George's high street butcher swallowed up. Is that like some kind of euphemism?
No.
Actually, strictly speaking, the Nuremberg hearings were the trial of the century, not some preening pop star ninny trying to wriggle out of his record contract because he didn't like the typeface it had been done in.
Another preening pop star ninny trying to wriggle out of his record contract was Prince, a.k.a. the artist formerly known as Prince, a.k.a. Squiggle, a.k.a. Tiger Tim and the Daleks. Prince so hated his evil, money-generating, fame-filled contract with Warner Brothers that he went round with slave written on his face in gay biro.
Yeah, The reason he wrote Slave was because he couldn't fit preening pop star Ninny on his powdered cheek.
On the same night that Prince unveiled that complaino-face writing, the Brit Awards in 1995, the drummer from Blur, Dave Rowntree, was so inspired that he came on a stage with Dave written on his face. In manly British biro.
What is going on? Well, the record industry of nowadays is unrecognisable from its humble beginnings of olden times. CBS Records, or CBS Records, as it's known in America, had begun life, like all of the big record companies, in a Kentucky malt shop with a pharmacist selling wax cylinders out the back.
Yes?
I'd like a grocer of prophylactics, please.
Certainly, Sonny. Anything else?
Yes, I'd like a bumper jar of Dr. Proctor's special trouser ointment.
No problem. Coming right up. Anything else?
You don't have one of those newfangled wax cylinders, do you?
Grandpa, fetch the lynching rope. We've got us a pervert.
Ah, the good old days. Now the world is full of faceless global multimedia conglomerates. Time Warner, AOL, Polygram, Universal Seagram, Hugh Pew, Barney McGrew, and Sony.
Sony, of course, is Japanese for Remember Pearl Harbor? Anyway, you can see why George Michael was so cross. When he'd signed to CBS in 1982, they were still only a faceless national multimedia conglomerate. But that is the way of all things. These days, artists are little more than software. George Michael might as well come in a packet.
But once upon a time, record labels weren't all run from sinister undersea bases in the Caribbean. Let's take you back to the good old days.
The invention that transformed the music industry after the war was the phonograph record, a flat, grooved disc of extruded black plastic that played Glenn Miller at 78 revolutions per minute. Who would have foreseen at the time that this slab of shellac will become so infused with romance and sex and significance?
So much so, in fact, that when in the 1980s it was replaced by a much better, smaller, shinier, digitised version, men with beards with bits of food in them actually went round feeling nostalgic for dust on the needle and the sound of crackling. The only reason they lament the loss of vinyl records is that CDs are no good for rolling cigarettes on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. But in the 1950s, vinyl records were central to the birth of rock and roll, thanks to the Bobby Soxers.
Yes, Bobby Soxers, so named because they wore policemen's socks. These were the very first musical tribe to be exploited by the record industry. They were teenage girls who went to Frank Sinatra gigs and wore socks as a mark of allegiance to old Two Eyes.
They invented being a pop fan. In effect, they created the generation gap.
Life is the name of the game, and I want to play the game with you.
Gap. The grown-ups and the squares just didn't understand.
After the Bobby Soxers came the Teddy Boys, so named because they were all called Teddy. A fairly small group. In order to register as an official youth tribe, they were forced to allow in boys with other names. First Terry, then Tommy, and eventually any name beginning with T. Now, these people wore drapes and crept around brothels and styled their hair using a duck's arse.
You checked this, haven't you?
Cool it, Daddy-O.
I thought I said never to mention that I was your daddy-o.
No, that's the kind of thing that beatniks said. Beatniks, you see, wore old jumpers and smoked roll-ups and liked jazz, and their Bible was Jack Kerouac's classic adult literacy TV programme On the Move, starring Bob Hoskins.
On the road. All these youth tribes and those that came after, folkies, punks, mods, grungers, cowpunks, metalheads, cowheads, binmen, fruggers, froggers, grouts, barnstormers, gandies and R&Bers owed their existence to the single, a 7-inch diameter record with one song on one side and a different song on the other.
Yes, in those far-off days before Kim Wilde had even thought of becoming a gardener, the kids in America couldn't get enough of them. Singles, that is. And so disc jockeys or DJs or tuxedos became the new aristocracy, except they had chins.
Yes, they also had crayons, a lot of them.
What?
I'm sorry if it comes as a bit of a shock to you, Stuart, but in order to persuade the radio stations to spin the latest record, the record company would send out big boxes of Crayola.
Payola.
Well, that's different, is it?
Yes.
Oh.
We must talk to you now then of the DJ Alan Freed.
Not half.
Alan Freed. In 1960, Alan Freed was indicted on payola charges, taking bribes from record companies in return for playing their records. This was the first scandal to rock the music biz, and it changed everything, in that record companies stopped just giving the DJs money in big envelopes and developed subtler methods of bribing them, like sending them free baseball hats with the band's logo on the front.
full of drugs.
Alan Freed was the first American radio DJ to spot the untapped appeal of a brand new type of music. He called it rock and roll.
Well, it was rock and roll.
Yes, but not until Alan Freed called it rock and roll. Up until that point, people referred to it as that dunga music with the quiffs. Freed noticed that it both rocked and rolled, put an N in between them, and hey presto, rock and roll was the new rock and roll.
Since then, of course, according to media commentators, pretty much everything has been the new rock and roll. That's easily one of the most inaccurate, stupid, inane and vexing things to be said in modern times. Janet Street Porter is believed to have started it when she said,
"Comedy is the new rock and roll.
After that, the floodgates opened, and we were told that
Poetry is the new rock and roll. No, it isn't. Rambling is the new rock and roll. Wait a minute, scrub that. History is the new rock and roll.
no, it's not. History is the discipline of recording and interpreting the past. It's not a raw musical form blending rhythm and blues and country at all. Bob Harris doesn't reenact the repeal of the Corn Laws every night. Simon Sharma can't sing. No one throws their knickers at David Starkey.
I did. It was a mistake. I thought it was Fergal Sharkey.
Fair enough.
Okay, David's got a point though, hasn't he? Here's what Simon Sharma's History of Britain would sound like if history were the new rock and roll.
Instinctively, we imagine Neolithic Britons huddled in primitive buildings, gouged out of the unyielding rock, baby, of a cliff, hurtling through time, miraculously preserved between a sea of dunes and grass until a great explosion in 1850. One for the money, a two for the show. Reading it red, it blew away the concealment of the millennia with a whoop baba loo bop a lop bam boom. Bop baba loo bop a lop bam boom.
Simon Sharma has left the building.
But coming back for a moment to Alan Freed.
Greetings, Bob Pickers.
Alan Freed! Alan Freed wasn't the only corrupt DJ, but the courts chose to make an example of him. They said, e.g. Alan Freed.
Not half.
Some people, however, say that Alan Freed was just a pasty.
No, they say he was just a patsy. Pie Records. That was just a pasty.
You're right.
Yes, time, I think, for a musical interlude. We've been slipped an awful lot of money by this week's musical guest, so a big up to him. You may know him as former leader of the Icicle Works, as a solo singer in his own right, or as the author of all those violent books about the SAS. It's Ian Mcnabb.
My friend and I were talking one evening beside some burning wood, trading tales of places we came upon when the times were good. Spoke of a girl he viewed like no other whom he had come to know. I swallowed hard and listened intently, resigned beside the glow. Always there it's standing proudly when all else falls down. It's all around you, didn't it find you when you said you couldn't be found? When love calls me, I will be running swiftly to find out just what all the fuss is all about. Unrelentless, deep in the strangest feelings, believe me, love is full of wonderful color. I can still hear your soft voice repeating immortal words. Mountains move, belief is your weapon. It all seemed so absurd. Love is a beacon on the horizon. Watch when you touch down. Reality finds me fumbling for reasons when the chance comes round. When love calls me, I will be running swiftly to find out just what all the fuss is all about. Unrelentless, relentless, deep in the strangest feelings. Believe me, love is full of wonderful color. When love calls me, I will be running swiftly to find out just what all the fuss is all about. Unrelentless, deep in the strangest feelings. Believe me, love is full of wonderful color. Take my confidence to guide you through the fallen, up inside you. Love is full of wonderful color.
Ian Mcnabb. Thank you, Ian.
Bravo. 2-0.
Wax cylinders, bobby socks, Crayola, pasties. The record industry was born in the USA. Never again would teenage hormones run wild and free. Young people were now consumers, a demographic marketed to with free sweets and things.
These days, of course, bands are, to use a term I personally find very irritating, but no one listens to me, media savvy. They'll hire a lawyer before they've even worked out what shape their logo is. They've bought all the books in the shop called How to Make It in the Music Business. They've done a course at the local tech called The Music Business and How to Make It in It. And they're writing a course called In It, the Business, Music and How to Make It. And they don't intend to get ripped off by unscrupulous managers and greedy record companies. No way.
No way. Except they still do.
This is because all bands have managers, whether they're the Red Hot Chili Peppers...
The odd thing, though, about managers is that bands get through them so quickly. Here for your education now, the Collins, Maconie and Quantick Rock Manager Family Tree.
We've invented all the names here, partly so we don't get sued, and partly because when we looked up Collins, Maconie and Quantick Rock Manager Family Tree on our Google search engine, nothing came up.
So here we go.
The Collins, Maconie and Quantick Rock Manager Family Tree!
With no thanks to Google, even though we typed in 6 different spellings of Maconie.
Yeah, except the right one.
First manager, Alan Olderbloke.
This is someone who met the band before they were famous. He's got a van and a phone. He knows a chap who runs a little jazz pub down in Dulwich. I'll be able to put you on, lads. Alan Olderbloke will last until the band discover he's not getting them any gigs outside Dulwich because he's got this thing where he can't cross rivers. Alan will be replaced by...
Jimmy Tour Jacket.
Jimmy is the band's first proper manager. He's got lots of experience in the biz, i.e. he used to know a man who managed the mighty Lemon Drops. Jimmy knows lots of promoters. He'll pay for some proper demos to be recorded, and he'll get them signed to a proper record label. But then, just as they're about to go on their first tour, he gets the boot in favour of...
Leon C. Yank Bastard III.
Leon is a fat American in a Draylon leisure suit, and he's managed everyone, from Joy Division to S Club Juniors. Leon's years of experience mean that the band will go far. They'll become superstars. Leon will also make a lot of money from the band, most of which actually belongs to the band. This will eventually cause him to be sacked by the band, sued by the band, and replaced by the band. And their new manager will be...
The band.
who reckon that after 5 albums and a lot of touring, they can pretty much do this manager thing themselves. They can't. They're rubbish at it. They get dropped by their record company and decide to give up managing themselves so they can get back to basics. They will be replaced as managers by...
Reg Death.
Reg Death is their drug dealer. Now, the band have no faith whatsoever in Reg's management skills, but they owe him a hell of a lot of money. After a couple of weeks of Reg phoning up student unions, ostensibly to get gigs, but really to meet young women, the band split up, now broke, unemployed, and all cursed with that thing where you can't cross rivers.
Another important person in the record industry is the press officer. Actually, he or she isn't really much of an officer. I mean, not compared to John Mills in the Colditz story. But they do have an office, and this office is usually filled with bizarre, unwanted promotional items like Beth Orton jump leads or rolling pins with Metallica written on the side.
Basically, a press officer is like a drug addict, but less efficient. I once spent 40 minutes in an interview with Alice Cooper talking with him, and this is true entirely at cross purposes, because his press officer had told him that I was from the sun.
From the sun? Wow, like a space monster.
Well,
God, he must have been well freaked. Yeah. Was he still drinking at this point?
No, the Sun newspaper, but yes, he was well freaked. But it shows how important a PR is. A PR, in essence, is like the pram-filled canal of information between the journalist and the band.
Yes, PRs are liars, basically. They have one job, to make the band famous. This sounds quite nice. Just phone up the NME.
Hello?
Hi, is that Stu?
Stuart, yes?
Stewie, this is Insania McLying from Dishonest and Crap PR.
Yeah?
Yeah, hi, would you like some drugs or sex?
Pardon?
Listen, Stewport, Hawkwind are touring again this month. They've got product out and the buzz is very good. There's a hell of a groundswell.
Hawkwind? I think they're rubbish.
Great. Listen, can you run 5,000 words in a cover shot? The band love your writing. If they knew anyone good looking, you could shag them.
No, Hawkwind, they're a lot of old bikers with beer bellies who play pubs. Haven't they split up?
I'll send you a Foo Fighters cafetiere.
You're on.
Yes, this sadly is how the biz works. A PR who has a little band can get them covered in the music papers by dangling a big band over the paper like a carrot on a stick. Not literally, obviously. A PR wouldn't really be able to dangle members of U2 on a stick while hovering over a music paper office in a helicopter.
No, unless it was a really strong metal stick. Maybe it had some helium balloons under the edge's hat.
For all our good-natured Josh, you know, PRs are an essential lubricant of the media circus.
Yeah, like circuses need lubricants.
Well, the odd circus does.
Everyone needs a PR. Why, even the Nazis had a PR.
Yeah.
His name was Joseph Goebbels, and every week he would have a briefing with Hitler in his state-of-the-art loft space offices in Berlin's trendy Hochstenheim district.
Yo, hey, what's up?
I'm sorry?
Hi, how's it hanging?
Nicht good. The Times of London says I have overreached myself in the Eastern Front, and my obsession with the defeat of communism has unbalanced my whole war effort, leaving me vacant and vulnerable closer to home.
Oh, hey, chill. Look, the Times has got a downer on you. You know that. You got 5 stars in Heat magazine.
Everyone gets 5 stars in Heat magazine. They are fawningly uncritical. They even said Fort Boyard was must-see TV.
Look, H, so we like about Heat, but it's gossipy, it's inclusive, it's very now, and we have to broaden your demographic. You're very hot with liquid news. How do you feel about I'm a dictator, get me out of here?
Who else has confirmed?
Cat Deely, Gary Bushell, Kate Thornton. The new Basil brush is penciled.
The new Basil brush is too fat.
Yeah.
But Bushell I like. Get their people to fax my people.
Hitler and Goebbels there.
When the client's a superstar, you see, like Madonna or Sting, then the PR is there to stop the journalist getting anywhere near them or to make it all as difficult as possible. A good way PRs spoil things in interviews is by sitting in, making sure you, the journalist, only ask questions about their terrible new album or the work they do with tiny limbless kittens in Bosnia, and not about the time they pleasured Helmut Kohl while kippered on angel dust.
Helmut Kohl?
Racy. Munich, Gaumont, June 10th, 1978.
Oh, yeah.
The record company is one enormous power struggle. Is Prince really a slave of his record company, or are they in fact his slaves? And if so, why don't they go round with it written on their faces?
Because people who work at record companies can't write.
Yeah, I suppose it would take too long as well.
Well, it's tricky too because you have to do it in a mirror but then not write it backwards.
Yeah, but they could get other departments to do it
From the
for them.
boardroom to the boards, a special rock hierarchy holds sway.
Yes, for instance, there are 2 kinds of band on any tour. The support band and the headliner.
Okay, here's the difference. The headliner goes around in a giant galleon made of spun silver, lightly dining on large tongues in brine, arrives at the venue a nanosecond before they're due on stage, having had a tribute band do the sound check for them. They then play for 40 or 50 minutes before going off to Rod Stewart's for a light supper of Rivita and Glenmorangie.
The support band, however, drives up a B road in the 1960s in a Commer van that was rejected from Heartbeat for being too 60s. They grab a hasty meal of roots and berries from a gypsy caravan. They arrive at the venue too late to sound check, and they take the stage.
Only to find out that no matter how loudly they whack their Gibsons, pummel their Fender Rhodes, or pound their Zildjian cymbals, they are completely inaudible.
And yet, one short hour from now, the headline band will come on and play with crystal clear sound, as if Messrs. Olufsen and Bang themselves were manning the sound desk.
How can this be? Surely the headliners haven't fixed it so the support band have got terrible sound?
Yes, that's exactly what they do.
Bastards. 5 hours rehearsing the brilliant new song about the monkey that cried, and then you're on stage, and all the audience can hear is...
And I love that song about the monkey that cried as well.
But sound fixing happens, and it's very cruel. It's almost as cruel as the buy-on.
The buy-on. Now, this really is nasty. Those of you who aren't cynical, hardened rock hacks like us probably think that this is how a band gets a support slot.
Everybody, is there a Mr. Badly Drawn Boy here?
Yes. Yes, I say yes, I'm badly drawn boy. Has someone handed my hat in?
No. There's a phone call for you.
Oh, is it Nick Hornby wanting some more music? Or Tony Parsons jumping on the bandwagon?
No. It's some fella calling himself Thom Yorkie from Radiohead.
Thom Yorkie from Radiohead? Oh, whatever can he want? Hello?
Hello, is that Badly Drawn Boy? This is Thom Yorkie from Radiohead.
Thom Yorkie, wow, I think you're great. Especially yellow.
Thanks, mate. Anyway, though, we wanted to know, would you like come on our world tour and be our support?
Would I? And then some.
Cool. We'll, pay you £1 million, but you have to wash your hat. We'll also pick you up outside your mum's on Friday after work.
Gosh, this is like a dream come true.
Sadly, this is a dream. It doesn't happen like that.
No. This is the gruesome reality of being a support band, the buy-on. The buy-on, as its name suggests, is this. When a headliner invites another band to support it, the support band have to buy on to the tour with money. That is, they have to pay the headline band to let them support them. It goes something like this.
Hello?
Hello, is that the lead singer of the Indie Boys?
Yes, it is.
Great. I love that song you do about the monkey that cried.
Who is this?
I am the manager of Mr. Big Band and the headliners.
Wow. Despite your obviously made-up name, you're my favourite group.
Well, that's great, because listen, we need some young, new no-hopers to keep the audience on the verge of mild boredom while we take drugs before the gig. In essence, we're offering you the chance to be our support band.
That's fantastic.
Of course, it's a buy-on.
What's a buy-on?
Well, Andrew just explained a little while ago. Weren't you listening?
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I'm going to go. Apparently Hitler's on what not to wear.
Not off. Thank you once again, Cleveland. You've been a wonderful audience. Lloyd knew our father. Good night.
Lloyd Cole Knew My Father was written and performed by Andrew Collins, Stuart Maconie and David Quantick, with special guests Amelia Bulmore and Mcnabb. The producer was Lucy Armitage.
Down to size, I could tell you